Isaac B. Lutz died in 1905.
And this is Isaac B. Lutz's obituary. The man who built the old brick, this is his obituary. And he's buried at Farmers Institute. He and Lydia are both buried at Farmers Institute.
The brick house was inherited by his daughter, Etha Lutz Ratliff.
This is the lady that inherited the house from Isaac B.
In 1911, the property left the Lutz family and was purchased by the Stidhams. Patty Broomsma's great-grandfather's name appears on the abstract.
Anytime you see a document that has one of your ancestors, it's always kind of a heartthrob, you know, to think that these are papers that they had in their possession at one time. And, you know, this is an original, so I know that he had this at one time.
That's right, he handled that.
Right, he handled this. And of course, you know, I knew my great-grandfather. I remember him because he didn't die until 1952. James Lincoln was born here in Indiana. His father was an immigrant, came here in 1863. Mary Stidman is his first wife's sister. And it looks like Charles and Mary had bought this property in 1911, and then they signed it over to James in 1913, so 2 years later. Now, whether or not they may have purchased this with him in mind, because he did have a lot of children, you know, by that time they had about 10 children. My great-grandmother died in 1905 when my grandmother was 15 years old. And then he married the lady who is on this abstract with him. He had 7 children with my great-grandmother, and then he had 8 children with this lady.
James A. was married twice, and Lori, who he referred to as Miss Lori, that was his second marriage. He would call her Miss Lori, and she would refer to him as Mr. Lincoln, almost in a third party. James A. Lincoln is my great-grandfather, and his son Arthur is my grandfather. This is Arthur and Myrtle. They moved here when Myrtle and Arthur got married. And I think this is their wedding day because she's got on her corsage. They had 3 children. James Robert was the oldest. That's the child that was born and was stolen from here by the gypsies. And the gypsies, he got sick and they left him by the water and he died of pneumonia. He was born September 1914 and he died in February of 1915, so he was only a few months old. There were gypsies all over, Mother said. And they literally broke in and stole him out of the house. And this was after the baby died, because this picture is with my mother, Leona, and she was born October 2nd, 1915. Arthur and Myrtle went up to Canada because Arthur thought that'd be a great place to live and work. And they went to find housing and left my mother and Uncle Roger with a lady they called Aunt Gert, which is Gert Hahn. This is a picture of Myrtle with my mother and Roger. When Myrtle died in 1919, they were left with the Hahns because Arthur went back to Canada They lived here until they were teenagers, and then she said it was the happiest years of her life.
You know, without the pictures that you've got, and without some of the other still type pictures, I would, because I would actually forget what I've done, because I keep waking up with newer things, and I don't really look back too much on it. So, and it's if you do that, you might get to the point where, well, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think about what's been done. I just think, well, what's next? And that's the game you play.
Yeah.
What's next? And but it's nice to get the roof on, stabilized. That way, I got more control of it. I don't have to drive myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to be able to jump back and forth to what you want, what's really needs to be done, what you want to do, and what's really happening, and still be pretty pleasant and enjoy what you have right now around you. It's probably about like a golf game. But I feel like I'm shooting my age.
Uh-huh. That's a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah. This was a room. They plastered this. They had a ceiling in it here.
In the basement, you mean?
Yeah.
This was a room?
This was living quarters. Because this is finished. This was plastered and they had a ceiling here. See where the light were?
And this, you think, is a kitchen over here?
Well, I thought this was a kitchen too. Just an apartment type thing down here. Because it had a different arrangement here, see?
Mm-hmm. And a pretty elaborate fireplace.
This elaborate fireplace. They could come in here because see this stonework right here? This stonework right here, this hasn't been changed for no. But this has been changed. See the brick?
Uh-huh.
This, normally, if this had been like this when they originally built, they would have used stone there. See? And so, this was an outside door. Here. And that was an outside door. And this is, I think it was the way they cooked there.